Hello, everybody. Hello, Colombia. Hello, rest of the world. My name is Julius Solaris. I'm dialing in from Las Vegas, Nevada, in the United States of America to talk to you today about the future of events. Is it hybrid experiences? I'm the VP of Marketing Strategy Events for Hopin. I don't know, many of you know about us. We're born as a virtual events company that now has taken over all of new and different types of doing events, including in-person and hybrid. Everybody's talking about hybrid. Everybody's talking about the future of virtual events, the future of in-person events. I know a lot of you marketing people, startups in the audience love events as a tool to generate business, to generate new leads, to generate engagement, to create experiences, brand experiences with your audience. So can't wait to show you. If we can bring the slides up on screen, I want to show you a little bit of what I've prepared for you and take you through the journey of the future of events and the future of hybrid experiences. Yeah, here we go. Fantastic. So that's me. I'm the VP of Marketing Strategy, as I said, for events at Hopin. A little bit about us very quickly. We're born as in 2019. Our founder, Johnny Buffarat, was in his bedroom for 2 years for an autoimmune disease pre-pandemic and thought, I'm missing out on all these amazing events. I need a way to connect with people while I cannot be there. And he created this amazing product that with the pandemic skyrocketed as one of the fastest growing European companies of all times and tech companies of all times. We went from a few people, a bunch of people in London to 900 plus people in the space of 2 years. We've raised almost $1 billion in funding, and we're very excited about the future of events. Whatever it is, virtual, in-person, and hybrid. We've acquired StreamYard, even the platform where I'm streaming from right now, as well as a bunch of other in-person technologies such as Attendify, Boomset, which you may have heard of. So Hopin is the future of events, but let's take a step back and see what happened in 2020. I think it's important to look a little bit at the past to understand what the future holds, right? I come from the event industry. I spent 15 years talking about events, creating, doing research about event technology and the use of virtual events. And I've gone through a lot of crises. I've gone through the 2008, 2009 mortgage crisis, economic crisis. I've gone through SARS, Zika, and but I've never seen what I've seen in March 2020, the wave of cancellations. We've all experienced that, but I think it's important to contextualize what really happened as a very unique moment in the event industry. One of those moments that I believe redefines completely what events are about, the purpose of events, and is creating new streams of opportunity for a lot of us out there. So a new category was born during the pandemic. Virtual events were nowhere new. If you had done events before, you know, virtual events was an option, but it's fair to say that we never experienced virtual events as we've had since March 2020. It's been a collective experience of months and months of attending a lot of events. I like to think of it as the biggest advertisement the event industry has ever had, or those that do events have ever had, because events traditionally are not necessarily accessible. You need to travel, you need to pay a ticket to get there, or you need to be part of an association or organization. And all of a sudden, all these amazing events were made available for free in most cases, and everybody could attend them wherever they were. So what a fantastic advertisement for what events are about, which we'll talk about that in a second. To me, are about connecting people. The job we have as event professionals or marketing professionals that work with events is to create those connections that are not easy to make in other media, online or offline. Events are exclusively very, very effective in creating those connections. So a new category is born, virtual events. And it's fair to say that we cannot compare virtual events since March 2020 from virtual events and the technology available before. I think that we've seen more progress in terms of delivery of features and new capabilities of software more in the past 20 months than in the past 20 years. I've been following most of the tech evolution of the past 10, 15 years in event technology. I've never seen quite anything like it. The amount of resources invested in virtual events and also now in hybrid events, it's unprecedented. So if you've done any type of activation, any type of event before 2019, in person or virtual, we're playing with a completely new playbook right now. We have a completely new tool set available because tools themselves have evolved so much. There's so much more that you can do today and so many more possibilities to reach new audiences that it's really an unfair comparison. Okay? You may have the experience in designing virtual programs, but the tools have profoundly changed. So keep that in mind going forward, because I think it's going to be extremely important in the way you position yourself towards the in-person, the hybrid, or the virtual experience. And we're going to define all of those very, very soon, so we know what we're talking about. And by the way, I want to leave some time open for any questions you may have. Please do ask any questions if you're online in the Q&A section or the chat section. And if you're in person, by the end of my speech, please do raise your hand. I would love to connect with you, understand how you're planning events in 2021. So what is happening out there? This talk is about the future, and there's no talk about the future if we don't understand the environment we're living in. So these are some of the macro trends. They are not necessarily event specific. They do not necessarily belong to the event industry as such, but are happening all around us. So when we talk about events, I want to define that. We're talking about business events. We're not talking about sporting events. We're not talking about special events. We're not talking about weddings and the likes. So business events specifically are deeply affected right now by these trends. The most important one, the one I'll always look at whenever we're defining the strategy for the future for our clients and for our product, for our company, is definitely the hybrid office trend. I believe we've never witnessed anything quite like it in terms of how many companies are deciding to adopt a hybrid structure for their office hours, meaning you can stay at home, you can work from home, you can decide to come to the office, or you can have a split of the two. We've seen incredible numbers, almost like 48% of companies planning not to go back to the office at all, 75% of them having a mixed schedule, 85% asking, giving at least 1 or 2 days at home. These are staggering numbers that completely change the scenario of the work environment. And the work environment is extremely important in terms of the impact that it has on how we think about attending events and our attitude towards attending events. Then there's a problem with overload. There's an overload of exposure on camera in virtual environments where we feel the stress, we feel the burnout of many calls, many digital calls through the day. And literally we're reaching a breaking point in terms of engagement. We will talk about how engagement is important to define the future of how we connect online and offline. Then there's climate change. It's undeniable. Everybody's talking about it. Despite the opinion you may or may not have about it, it's a topic of the moment, and it's a trend that it's affecting many industries, and it's having an impact. Events are at the core of it. There's a lot of discussion about the waste and travel produced to attend events, so we need to keep an eye on it. And lastly, the labor shortage is one that affects the hospitality industry specifically, in the region of 75% shortage right now in the hospitality industry, meaning that if you're planning events at traditional venues, traditional hotels, you may be struggling to find the people to actually support that event. And that's a problem for in-person events. So this is the macro scenario that we're looking at. But I want to talk specifically about events and what is happening there. First off, I think the number one problem we have if we're planning events in person right now is that most events are running at 40 to 50% capacity in person. These are the numbers reported by multiple sources. We're not at 100% capacity. There's a million reasons why we're not there. Travel confidence, restrictions, local authorities having an impact, fear of getting infected by the virus. And this is like the virus is the pattern of the virus is probably one that has another impact on the decisions that we make in terms of our in-person versus virtual programs as well. In a sense that it's tough to understand where the virus is going. You know, we're all seeing right now. I come from Europe. We're seeing in Europe the reintroduction of lockdowns that are impacting events programs. So it's an extremely fluid and changing environment right now we have to deal with. And obviously, virtual fatigue is a problem specifically with virtual events, which we've seen. There's a number of virtual events available out there. So the need to create more engaging experiences is definitely out there. But also with unprecedented problems come unprecedented opportunity. And I feel that never like now we have so many opportunities in front of us if we're really creative enough to change the narrative of how we plan events, how we connect people. Specifically, it's undeniable how virtual events can create the extra revenue streams that we need to compensate for the loss of attendance in person. Also, introducing a virtual component helps with reducing cost, and that's pretty important aspect right now. As we enter an inflationary period, we may expect costs to go up. So if we want to cut costs, virtual remain a deeply engaging solution if done properly, that can actually help us achieve our business objectives. And also traditional problem with events has been you're limited to the venue, you're limited to a specific place that you decide to make the event happen. And that poses a lot of issues in terms of scalability, right? There's only so many people you can have, whatever you decide. But what if that audience can increase and go forward and become bigger? So I'm very excited about these opportunities, but you're here to discuss what the future of events look like. So let's not waste any time and talk about that. So everybody says that the future is about hybrid, but I want to take a step back. What the market is actually telling us right now is that the future is really about the freedom of choice. And what I mean by that is the freedom of the attendee to decide for themselves. So that freedom to me is expressed by the need of meeting and connecting however, whenever, and wherever they want. And these are attendees. This is the need they have. This is like the reaction that the market is giving to this extremely fluid and uncertain scenario we're living in. Therefore, if you're planning your events in 2021 and 2022, you have to consider that many attendees won't be able to travel to your event. Many in-person attendees will want a different type of experience. Many online attendees would want to have a completely different virtual experience. And also, many attendees online or offline may not want to connect with a specific piece of content with a speaker in the moment you're having a speaker. And we're introducing probably one game changer here for the hybrid experiences as such, synchronous versus asynchronous hybrid events. We'll talk about that in a second. But like, keep in mind, however I decide the medium I want to connect with, whether it's my phone, whether it's my presence, whenever I decide. I don't need to be there at a specific time, wherever. It could be at your venue, it could be in your virtual venue, as Hopin is. And you have to also keep in mind that planning events meant something pre-pandemic. Planning an event had a specific sets of rules that you would engage with, right? There would be a venue, there would be a program, there would be a speaker, there would be a buffet, F&B, food and beverage, some level of entertainment. That's kind of the standard of events. That has changed dramatically. I've never seen a more fluid concept when it gets to planning events. Literally, there's no one definition of planning events today. And as we navigate towards the metaverse, I'm sure you've talked about this during the event quite a lot. That concept seems like in constant evolution. And really, we can think about in person, we can think about virtual, we can think about almost pre-recorded video that we can put during virtual events and in-person events, and we can think about hybrid. No approach is less valid than the other. I've seen different type of events using different tools. The tool set, the way of doing events has dramatically changed. So keep that in mind, that there is no right way to do events today. There is no wrong way to do events today. Everything counts as long as we connect with people. So let's talk about hybrid events. This talk is called The Future of Events. Is it hybrid experiences? Let's talk about hybrid events specifically. What are hybrid events? We define hybrid events as, we try to keep the definition as open as possible, but we're talking about an in-person event that has an online component, okay? And I'd like to add to that this could be a synchronous or asynchronous hybrid component, meaning that an event can happen in person and then the digital version can happen a week after that. Or it can happen on a website such as Hopin, where all the videos are recorded and then attendees can go and watch them wherever they want. So I believe that the hybrid events definition needs a little bit of working. Let's talk through what hybrid experiences are all about. Can we all agree on the fact that hybrid events are nothing new? So if you think about the Super Bowl here in the US, if you think about the World Cup in Latin America or in Europe, I think you can relate to that. Obviously, if you go to the stadium and you watch it live, it's fantastic. It's a great experience. But if you watch at home, it's also a great experience. By no means it's a completely different experience. When I think about attending at the stadium, I'm thinking about the noise, the sensory involvement, the music, the fans screaming. When I'm thinking about watching it at home, I'm thinking about staying with my family, with my friends, having a few drinks and enjoying a TV show, right? So I feel that this is the direction that the hybrid environment is taking. So if we think about in-person and where in-person is going, in-person is moving towards the experiences, towards feeling, towards connection, less towards content, more towards interaction, right? We want to have that stadium experience. While if we think about virtual, it's moving more towards the TV experience, more towards the watching a TV show, highly produced, where everything is quick and everything is moving fast and I'm being entertained by it, and I can still connect with other people within a platform. So we really have to consider that. But all the challenge that opens is that we need to be able to create connections regardless of the medium. And there's really no sort of attendee that is entitled to a better experience than the other. So whenever we're thinking about creating an in-person experience together with the digital experience, whatever you want to have that digital experience, they need to be equal in terms of delivery for the attendee. There's no first class and second class attendee. Everybody is entitled to the fantastic experience. And this is where we come in. This is where we're thinking when it gets to the future. We're thinking that connection has become a commodity, right? where everybody's connected. We are connected all day, but we feel very, very lonely to a certain extent. And we feel that the biggest contribution that Hopin has given to the world during the pandemic, it's really helped to create meaningful connection in a fantastic user experience on a completely different way, so that people actually do feel closer. And we like to call the future of experiences shared experiences, where everybody's entitled to the best possible experience regardless of the medium. And that there's a secret formula to get there. It's part of the tool, it's part of the way you design your events. But like the user experience, it's incredibly important. It's something that we spend a lot of time on at Hopin because we feel that's a direct result of engagement. Let's talk about that. So what's the shift? What's the future? Is it hybrid events? I think the future is not hybrid events, because hybrid events as such are very limited. We're talking a very specific subset. And as we said at the beginning, the concept of planning events has never been more fluid than today. So if we really want to respect all of you in the audience planning different type of events, I cannot come to you and say, listen, this is the way you should do your event. You know best what your audience is about. You know best how they want to engage. And so planners need to be able to be as creative as possible today. And I feel that is reflected in this statement here. I feel we need to move from hybrid events to what we call a hybrid event strategy. Let me explain very quickly what that means. So this is the word before the pandemic. So in-person events were there, and probably you would have some level of engagement for those more forward-thinking events on social media before, during, and after an event. And that would create some sense of touch point other than the in-person event. Maybe we would do some marketing. The situation after the pandemic and during the pandemic has dramatically changed. Let me show you how. This is what we deal with today. So we have social media, which is the outside layer for all the events. Then we have virtual events as a further touch point that it's more close to and specific to a specific community. Then we have hybrid, which is where the online community gets in touch with the offline community, or they're sharing a specific experience at the same time or later on. And then we have in person as the culmination of the coming together. And this sort of new funnel of events all of a sudden has new meanings for the implications. Specifically, I'm talking to you, marketing people that look at creating different touch points. So all of a sudden, what all these new touch points are creating, the virtual and the hybrid experiences specifically, are creating a sense of community. And community has massive implications when it gets to events, because it helps you to not reinvent the wheel every time, meaning that your audience, or it's already briefed about what your events are about. They know exactly what they should be doing. Also, you would appreciate that the approach that we have when we invest in social, virtual events, hybrid events, and in-person helps to decrease FOMO. FOMO, fear of missing out, is at all-time high right now. We are missing out on so many events. We cannot wait to go back to in-person. But FOMO is also a mental problem. It's not only a marketing technique. So we need to be able to offer to our audiences ways to relieve the tension that gets created by online interaction. So if I feel the tension and really want to meet with other people, having a virtual meet, having a way to connect in a hybrid way to the audience in person will help me to feel closer to that community without being there. And obviously, I will plan, and whenever I have the possibility, I will be there in person too. But you see how I'm creating new layers to relieve that tension and be close to my audience. This has been the traditional argument against the events. Fantastic event, amazing, I loved it, but it can be measured. Well, that's not the case anymore. Events can be measured. And the official way to measure events that we look at Hopin is engagement. Engagement was a problem before the pandemic for in-person events. That was by far the number one problem in all the statistics that the event industry has put out. We struggle with engaging with the audience. We struggle with engaging with the audience. That's the same to virtual events. We struggle with engagement with virtual audiences. Engagement redefines everything. Engagement is the true measure of success for your sponsors, for your speakers, for your attendees, for your team. If everybody is engaged with what you created, success is there. So how do we measure engagement? So connection is stronger than content. Keep that in mind. So I've done a lot of research into engagement. I've spent years and years reviewing hundreds of papers about engaging at events, specifically in a learning environment. The number one tool to help people connect and have people engaged, the number one tool we go back when we think about an event is how many people we connected with. So keep that in mind, because the events of the future are more about connecting people than broadcasting content. And content is very important, don't get me wrong. I'm a professional speaker. I love to speak in audiences. And there's always going to be space for it. Platforms like Hopin do a terrific job in reusing and repurposing that content, make it become like Netflix style, where you can do so many things and create new revenues opportunities. But what attendees really want is that group connection, feeling close to one another, essentially. Also, a new tangibility layer has been added by analytics. And this is how virtual events are almost changing the way in-person events are happening. So think about analytics. A huge percentage, almost like 100% of our clients use analytics obsessively. And those analytics shape their in-person programs as well. That's a new twist introduced by virtual events. I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna, obviously community, we said, more important than a single event. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So what's in it for you, right? What should you do? What's the next step? Well, other than connecting with me @Julius on Twitter or Julius Solaris on LinkedIn, I would love to connect with all of you here at the show for any questions you may have. Think about the revenue opportunity. This is probably the biggest opportunity. The planners that did so well with technology pre-pandemic are the ones that crushed it during virtual events during the pandemic. They were able to reassess immediately their business and go on and did amazing with revenue. I feel that the opportunity that virtual and digital bring to in-person, it's needed right now because we can run at 40, 50%. We need new avenues to make money. Sponsorship opportunities, community opportunities, content opportunities, resell those, but also cost reduction, sustainability. Virtual events are a direct answer to the sustainability issue that we're all facing right now. Community, inclusion, but also extending the life cycle of events. This has been the traditional issue with events. What happens once the event is over? Everybody, you need to start from scratch again. This is what virtual events create, that sense of a year-long community where you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Actually, attendees can engage very easily. That's it for me today. It's been a pleasure to talk to all of you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. I don't know if we have any questions right now from the live audience. If not, Julius Solaris on LinkedIn, Julius everywhere on social media. It's been a pleasure to connect with you. I'm shame I cannot be in person with you all, but yeah, have a great event. Not sure if we have any questions from the audience. I'll stand by. If we have anybody that wants to share, I'm standing by with no problem. Once again, Julius at hopin.com if you want to reach out and ask any questions specifically on how Hopin can help your business. There's no questions, I've been told. Fantastic to be with you. Thank you so much to WebCongress for having Hopin and myself here today.